Hello and welcome to my channel, Voluptas Ocularum. It means pleasure of the eye. My name is Stephanie, and today I'm going to show you all of the things that I painted in my sketchbooks while I was in Italy over the past 5 days. So my husband and I were celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and we have been to Italy before for a previous anniversary, and we really wanted to go back and see a few of the places we had been before. We wanted to go to the Venice Art Biennale. We wanted to go back to Bologna, and my husband had worked at this Agriturismo called Due Papaveri in Emilia-Romagna, and he did that in 2019. We went back for our anniversary and stayed at the Agriturismo in 2022, and we decided we wanted to go back for our 10-year anniversary. So that's what we did. So basically we were in Venice, Bologna, and just about an hour outside of Bologna into the Emilia-Romagna region. We did a couple of hikes, we visited a few cities, and yeah, it was just a really nice, quick little trip. It was especially nice because the weather in the UK has been incredibly cold and rainy in the last part of May and early part of June. And it was like 30 degrees and sunny every single day in Italy, as it is. So that was a really nice welcome break. Anyways, I thought that I would take you through some of the sketchbooks that I brought with me. And I'm going to start with this, which is an Etcher A6 size accordion style sketchbook. And I got this probably almost a year ago. I think I got it in the Etcher mystery bag that I got last autumn. I didn't think I was going to like it, honestly. Let's see. I swatched colors in here probably about 6 or 8 months ago, and I just wasn't sure how to use this thing. I was like, what do I do with this? So anyways, it's only in the past month that I started really using it. I've actually filled this up. It's completely full now, but I will go through that in a separate sketchbook tour. But today I'm just going to show you the Italy stuff. So anyways, painting on this is not exactly easy, but it is fun. It is fun to kind of have these flexible spreads so that you could do something on just one page, you could do it on 2 pages, or you could spread it across multiple pages. And so because the landscape there was so beautiful, this was from the Agriturismo we were staying at, I decided to draw a couple of things across the entire spreads. So this is the view from our suite in the morning, basically. And I was just trying to capture the yellows and blues of the early morning light. The sun was rising straight on over these hills, and so everything was sort of cast in these blue shadows. But now I'm going to go back in time because that was actually just the last couple of spreads from the one side of this book, because in an accordion style sketchbook you can use both sides of the page. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of the trip, which was in Venice. So this is the palette that I brought with me. It's just a little travel palette, and I will show it to you separately. I'll just kind of show you what's inside of it. But these are the colors that I had, and I swatched them out here. And then I also brought with me some watercolor markers and some colored pencils. So yeah, this was the first thing that I did in Venice, just based on a little streetscape scene. And then I painted this. This is from a photo. So I took this photo while we were walking, and then I painted it while we were sitting at a table. And this I painted from the table that we were at after we went to the Biennale. So we were sitting at a little table overlooking the city. After the Venice Biennale, we got out of the Giardini. It was just a really perfect, beautiful view. So I did this really quickly at the table. So this I painted Plein-Air. So I also started for the first time trying to urban sketch, and I've never done that before. So this was my first attempt. And basically what I did was I had my fountain pen. It's this one. It's what is this? Kaweco. It's a Kaweco fountain pen, has a medium nib on it, and I had waterproof ink inside. So I did this while we were sitting at a little table having some lunch, and it's not very good. I have to admit, it's really hard to urban sketch. I think that next time I do this, I would need to bring a viewfinder because it's really hard to like know where your edges are. But I painted this while we were eating lunch. So that was my first attempt at like trying to capture the urban scenes. Mostly I'm a landscape person, as most people know who have followed my channel for a while. Okay, this is a really big spread. I did this while we were hiking. So we did a 4 or 5 hour hike. It was pretty intense. It was like 700 meters elevation gain, and it was up to this peak called Cima Tauffi. We did it from a refugio. It was a circular hike. It was really beautiful. And at the very top, you had this like gorgeous panoramic view. And I sat awkwardly on the ground and spread this out while Italian people smoked on top of the peak behind me. And I just did this really quickly. So I'll show you some footage of that because I think my husband took some while I was working, or maybe he took a photo. I don't know. We'll see. This is kind of the cool part about the accordion style sketchbook is you can capture these like really panoramic views. So I haven't like gotten the art where people do sort of like continuous spreads throughout their books, but maybe one day I'll get there. Okay, this is a little wrought iron sign at a fortress, or I think it's the city hall, at a little town called Castelvetro. And I just thought it was like really graphic and interesting. So I did that with my fountain pen and then just did a little bit of a light wash behind it. And then this is a scene from Bologna. There are all of these arcaded walkways throughout the city so that you can always be sort of like in the shade. And it gives you these absolutely stunning contrasts between colors and shadows. Like everything in Bologna is a shade of like peach or orange or yellow or pink. It's a very, very, very scenic. Plus you get these like really beautiful blue shadows everywhere. So there's all of these like urban scenes that are just delicious. So that's like a little bike one. And then this one, I think this was, oh yeah, that was in Bologna as well. This was a little Vespa. So I actually painted this from a photo later because I didn't have time to paint it while I was on the street, but I was really happy with the way this turned out because I kind of did this at the end of the trip and I feel like I was getting more into the hang of like quickly getting down the brushstrokes of what was in my view without focusing too much on the details. So this was a Vespa in Bologna. And then I don't know if I have anything else. No, everything else is just swatching. So that's everything that I did in this little accordion style sketchbook. Now I have like stuff from other parts of England and stuff, and I'll go through that another time. I also brought this B5 size Etch Your Everyday sketchbook. So I have a couple of homemade sketchbooks, but the thing is I made them really big. And so, which I love. And I have been working in them and I have been painting in them and I'll do a tour once they're finished, but they're really not perfect for doing like a little travel kit. So this still fit inside my camera bag. It just barely fit. Like it could just kind of sneak into the top. But this is probably the largest that you would want to bring with you if you're carrying a small bag with you. I didn't have anything else suitable for what I was doing, so I ended up bringing two Etcher sketchbooks, the accordion one and this one. And but I really love working in them, and I kind of hate that because they're so expensive, and I don't want to love them. I want to be angry and sad at them, but I'm not. Like I love the paper so much. Anyway, so the first morning that we were in Bologna, my husband went for a run on the hill and I went into the city. And again, this was like another urban sketching test. So basically I tried to paint this scene, then I didn't really like how it turned out. So I did some pen work over top of it. And then I also tried to sketch another scene. I did it with a pen, but I forgot that the ink was not waterproof. So when I started going in with color, it started bleeding. So then I was like, oops. So I tried to just do it with color. Anyways, it's not very good, but it was more about like just practicing being out on the street and trying to capture a scene, which I did. Like these are all painted on location on the street. And then later in the day, I went to Piazza Santo Stefano, I believe it's called. And this is a place we have been before. It's a really beautiful plaza. I just found like a really nice shady spot in one of the arcades and decided to paint. And my husband took some pictures and filmed me as well. So I'll pop those in there for you to see. But I did finish some of the details later because we had to keep going and I couldn't finish everything there. But pretty much everything, like all of the base color, all of the cast shadows, all of the greenery, pretty much everything I did while I was there. And then I just sort of added a few little like details later, like the sort of like darker shadows around the edges, some of the shadows in the greenery, and some of the window details I added later. But pretty much everything else I painted while I was on location. And I painted it with like a bright pink watercolor pencil first. I'm not sure that I love that, but it's fine. This is the view where we were eating dinner at the Agriturismo. So we stayed at the Agriturismo for 3 nights, and dinner is like you can get it included. And the chef there is a Danish chef, and she's so good. Like the food there is amazing. And it's only like 40 euros to eat there. So yeah, it was like really good. And I painted this while we were eating dinner. Okay, so later in my sketchbook, I just like painted from a few photos. So that was like later in the evening. We went back to our room and I painted this one, which is of a window that I had seen in Bologna. I took a picture of it and I really liked it. And then this was some of the little fish that we saw in the market earlier that morning in Bologna. I've never really done a lot of like food and stuff like that before, or even market scenes, but I just wanted to try it because I have all these like vibrant colors in my palette, and the fish had all of these interesting reflections in them. So I just thought I would go a bit crazy and see what it looked like. Okay, so the next day, this was the day we actually went for the hike. So the huge panoramic one that you saw in the other sketchbook was painted on this day. But in the morning, I painted this from our balcony. And this was the view of the landscape in the morning. No, sorry, this is in the evening. So this would have been after the hike. I'm much more comfortable painting landscapes than I am urban scenes and details. So be nice about this next one, which is a Vespa that I saw. This is like the first try at a Vespa shot, and this is also from a photo that I had taken in Modena, which is about 45 minutes away from where we were staying. And so yeah, I think I just like overdrew this one, honestly, because if I look at the Vespa that I did the next day, the one from Bologna, what I learned is that like it's less is more. You kind of don't really need all of the reflections and details, and the sort of like less you try to make it look photorealistic, the better it's going to be, I feel like. I don't really draw vehicles very much, so this was really an experiment for me. But yeah, so I definitely think this one was much more successful, but you have to try it, right? So anyways, this is the one I did first, and I learned a lot from doing it. So that's what a sketchbook is for, right? Okay, this was the day before we left, and I painted this in the olive groves at sunset. And I have some footage of that as well, so I'll put that up on screen. But there is an olive grove just below the property, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's a very, very steep ground, so it's kind of hard to stand on, but I had my tripod with me and I had my painting board, and I just put everything on there like I've shown in my Plein-Air setup video, and it worked perfectly, and I had a really good time painting it. And then my final painting that I did of the 5-day trip is this one in Venice. So we took the train back. So we had to return our rental car at Bologna Airport. Then we went to Bologna Central, which is the train station, and took the train back to Venice, where we were flying out from. And we had like an hour in between when our train got in and when we had to take the bus to the airport. So I sat on the edge of the Grand Canal and just like painted and drew. And it was so funny because there was like, obviously it's Venice, so there's like thousands of people around. And people were just like standing there, like watching me, and they're like, that's so crazy. And people were like filming me and stuff. And I was like, it's not good. But, you know, nobody is mean to you when you paint outside. Like nobody is standing there being like, ew, that's gross. Like people are just amazed that you would actually do something in public. And I didn't mind at all. Like I was just like trying to ignore them and just go about my business. But people are just curious and they just want to know like what you're doing. And most people are like, I've never had somebody say something rude to me while I was out painting. Definitely, if you want to like do a quick immersion into what it's like to paint outside in front of an audience, like go to Venice because there will be people watching you the whole time. So this is the Grand Canal. We didn't have time to like walk around anywhere else, and we'd already been to Venice at the very beginning of our trip, so we didn't venture very far. I just sat there and painted that. And yeah, it took me about 30-40 minutes, I would say, to do a drawing and then do the watercolor over top. And that's it. So I actually painted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paintings in my B5 sketchbook. And then the entire side, the entire side of this accordion sketchbook while I was there. And then also like one side from this side. So I feel like that was a pretty good amount of work that I did while I was in Italy. And my husband was very, very supportive and patient. He really enjoys watching me paint and he knows that I love doing it. So he's always like trying to scout little locations for me. And so it's really nice to have somebody who can like help you carry things and make sure like nobody steals your stuff while you're not looking. So yeah, anyways, it was a really great trip. And now I'm just going to switch the perspective to a top-down view and I will show you a few of the little treats that I got myself at Italian art stores while I was there. Okay, so I could not resist getting a couple little things while I was there. I made an effort to look for some art stores in every place that we went to. And the first thing I came across was the Venezia sketchbook. It has this very distinctive red and white pattern on the front. And this is actually a representation of the paving from Piazza San Marco, which is in Venice. And they have like all of these stones that are sort of like embedded, sort of like terrazzo in the walkways. So that's what this cover represents. We went to this like Olviati museum where they had all the old typewriters. And it's a building that's designed by architect Carlos Scarpa. He's like, you know him if you know him. We're architecture nerds and both architects. So obviously we knew him. So yeah, we went there and that's where I got this sketchbook. And it's a very small, manageable size. So I thought that in the future, this would be a really good book to bring. I didn't actually draw anything in it while we were there because I wanted to work on the other sketchbooks that I had, but it is nice paper. It's relatively thick. I don't think it's like hyper thick. I think it might be 180 or 200 GSM. It's pretty white paper, which is nice. Yeah, so it's just a really nice size and you can work across the spreads. Like you have to sort of like crack it open a little bit to make it more flat, but it's a nice little travel sized sketchbook. So I'm looking forward to working in that from time to time. Also in Venice, I went to a little art shop and the only thing I really found that I was intrigued by was this gouache paint. Now it says tempera, but it's actually gouache. And I got this My Mary, gouache. So these were like €3 per tube, which I thought was a pretty good deal for, these are 20 ml tubes. Yeah. So I just picked up a few interesting, well, I don't know, like a mixing palette sort of, but like with a few extras. So I got a primary blue, primary red, which is essentially a magenta. I got yellow ochre and I got burnt sienna and I got the sap green. And so I thought that could be a nice palette of colors to test out. I also found a little art store in Modena. They didn't have anything like super unusual or interesting. I was kind of wondering if there would be some like unique Italian art supplies that I hadn't seen before, but essentially they just had like what you would expect from an art supply store. But what I did do was pick up a very large tube of Rembrandt lavender. This is watercolor because this is my favorite lavender. It's the one that's in this palette right now. It's this one, and it granulates really nicely. And yeah, I just really like it. So I thought it was a really good price. I think it was 11 euros for this whole tube, or maybe it's 10 euros for this whole tube, which is again, a 20 ml tube. And I got a smaller tube of the gamboge. And this I got because it is pigments PY150 and PO48. And I really like that combination. It's a really beautiful, like sort of transparent gold color. And a lot of people use that mix for their quinacridone gold. So I thought that I would try it, even though it's called gamboge. I thought that I would see if it's comparable to some of the quinacridone golds that I have. And then I just got a few of the Van Gogh ones. These are just really cheap. I think they were like 2 or 3 euros each. And I actually have the dusk pink in Rembrandt, but I don't actually like it as much as I like the Van Gogh one. And then I got Dusk Violet as well, which I didn't have. And I also got the Burnt Sienna because when I was at a workshop recently, the instructor said that he preferred this Burnt Sienna over the Winsor & Newton kind, which I often use Winsor & Newton Burnt Sienna. So I thought I would give this a try and just see what it's like. So nothing ground shattering here, not stuff that I couldn't have got at home. Maybe the tempera gouache, definitely wouldn't have been able to get that for the price that I got it at, but yeah, nothing like crazy here. And then the only thing else that I got is I got this collapsible water bottle. I got it at a little shop that sold like natural products, and I just really liked this one. I liked the color of it, and I liked the how compact it was. So this is actually what I'm going to be using for my plein air painting, and actually came with a carabiner, which I think is still attached to my board. Yeah. So I was using it and I just hung it off the end here. So I just like was hanging it off the end here, and I just take the lid off. It's really perfect because the carabiner goes into this little loop, and then you can take the cap off, because sometimes the carabiner is on the cap itself, which means you can't hang it from anything unless the cap is on, which is useless if you're painting. So yeah, this one worked really well. It's collapsible, it's very lightweight, and it worked really well. I used it outside while I was there. Okay, I promised I would show you what was in my like travel art kit for Italy. So I'm gonna just swatch things out a little bit here. The main thing that I use all the time is this little watercolor palette, and it's nothing like crazy. It's just a normal metal palette. But I'm always like constantly switching out and curating a little palette for myself. So this is kind of based off of my spring palette that I put together. These are the colors that I have, and I can just probably do them by memory. But so Buff Titanium, which I believe is a Schminke version. This is Payne's Blue Gray by Jackman's. This is Burnt Umber by Winsor & Newton. This is Burnt Sienna by White Knights. This is Nickel Azo Gold by Roman Schmal. This is Green Gold by Daniel Smith. This is, I want to say, Sap Green by Daniel Smith. Sap Green by Daniel Smith. This is Nordman Green by Isaro. This is Caribbean Blue by Isaro. Or maybe it's Cobalt Teal by Paul Rubens. It's one or the other. But they're basically identical. They're both PB28s. That is Cerulean Blue by Winsor & Newton. This is Cobalt Blue by Holbein. That is Deep Ultramarine. Yeah, Deep Ultramarine by White Knights. This is Lavender by Rembrandt. This is Wisteria by Daniel Smith. This is Quinacridone Magenta by Roman Schmal. This is Rose Madder by Rosa Gallery. This is Coral Reef by Daniel Smith. This is Aquarius Orange by Roman Schmal. And this is Sennelier Yellow Light by Sennelier. So yeah, those are the colors I brought with me. Lavender is perfect for distance hills. And then Coral Reef, I think, is like my favorite peachy color right now. I like it even better than Shell Pink by Holbein. So yeah, and I do really like White Knight's colors. And so the Burnt Sienna and Deep French Ultramarine are both whole pans because I use those quite frequently. So yeah, that was my palette. I would say the only complaint I have is that the Sennelier, as you can see, it's quite goopy. So that didn't really ever dry. I knew that because I use it a lot, but like the thing is, it didn't spill. And I've like had this in my backpack, like upside down and everything, and it didn't spill. It's just like never dry. It's always kind of wet. But everything else, it sort of retains its hardness fairly well. Daniel Smith are great for traveling, and so are Roman Schmal. I would say, like, they, even though they activate quite easily, they also like dry up pretty well, so they don't spill anywhere. Jackman's watercolors I really love. I actually have a whole travel palette just of Jackman's, and I love their colors. And Jackman's, if you're listening, I would love some more colors. Your granulating colors are absolutely stunning. Yeah, they're not listening, but it's fine. So that's that. And then in terms of like drawing utensils, I have this parallel pen, which can draw like a really thick line like that. But if you turn it, it can do that. And then if you put it on its side somewhere, you can like do thinner lines. So it's really good for drawing. However, this ink is not waterproof, so I didn't use it that much. And I regretted it when I did use it. So I have to get some waterproof ink for this, which I do have. I just need to like use this up and then I'll refill it with waterproof ink. MVP of Life is a water brush, and this is not even a brand. I don't even know what brand this is, honestly. This might have come for free with something, but I like utterly depend on this while I'm out because sometimes I don't have water. Even though I should have water because it's Italy and so you need to bring water with you everywhere, but like sometimes you don't. And so when you're on the train, plane, boats, like little areas where you don't want to pull out a whole thing of water, this is just like so great to have. I think I'm gonna look for getting some better ones because this one is not super pointy. And I do have some others like over here. I have a Pentel water brush, which I should probably try out a little bit more. And then I have this like Faber-Castell one, which is empty right now. But I'm going to try a couple and see how I like them. But I think I brought this one because I thought it held the most water, so it was really useful. I have my fountain pen, which is my Kaweco. I've refilled this a couple of times, and I always use this waterproof sketch ink inside. And it's legit waterproof. So once it dries, it's fine. I like the nib. I like it. It's pretty thick. You can get like a pretty dense line, but you can also get kind of a thin line. I never ended up using these. I use them often, but like I didn't use them this time. But I have a 0.1 and a 0.5 of the Derwent Line Maker, which are also waterproof. Then I have two mechanical pencils. This one is a 0.2, so it's very, very fine. And I use that for like doing really quick light sketches. And then I also have this Koh-i-Noor Versatile lead pointer, which currently has HB lead in it. And that's just useful to have. Never know when you might need one of those. And then also in that little part of my kit are a Neocolor One white. So in case I ever want to do resist, which I rarely ever do, but you never know. And then a soft white pencil by Holbein Artists, which is a really thick white pencil crayon, goes over like everything. So yeah, that's kind of like my drawing utensil stuff. For watercolor pencils, I kept it really, really limited. And yeah, I could have brought a lot more, but I decided to bring some markers. So I wanted to like keep this pretty low. So let's just do a little swatch. So this I have a mixture of Supercolor and Albrecht Dürer and Museum Aquarelle. But I love having a variety of yellows. Good for drawing outlines, and then just good for like lightening things up because they tend to be like more opaque when you use them. This is like a burnt ochre from Albrecht Dürer. And this is another really great color to have. This is Anthraquinoid Pink by Supercolor. So thick and dense, it kind of matches the coral reef color. Pink, which I used to sketch my scene in Bologna. Blue, teal blue, cobalt teal, or what is it called? Chrysocolla blue by Supercolor. This is Cobalt Genuine by Museum Aquarelle. And dark indigo, because it's always useful to have some really dark colors. This is dark phthalo green by Supercolor. And then a verdigris medium by Supercolor. Really nice. And let's just activate them here. They activate really, really well. I'm just gonna there. Yeah, they activate really well. So always good to have. I've drawn with watercolor pencils when I'm on the airplane, and I didn't want to like bring out my whole palette with water. And it's really, really nice just to do with a water pen. Okay, so that's the water activated pencils. And I have some Derwent drawing pencils, which I didn't really use that much because I decided not to like go over my drawings very much with anything. Like sometimes, well, in the past, historically, I have gone over and done details with colored pencils, but I'm finding that I am doing that less and less these days. And I don't know if that's because I'm getting better at capturing what I want to do with like what I have in watercolor, or whether I just like the look of leaving things, you know, as they are in my sketchbook without like going back over them. I will do it occasionally, but I'm finding I need to do it less and less, or I feel compelled to do it less and less. All of these pretty much are, I would say most of them are from the new range of Derwent drawing pencils. So this one, which is called Teal Blue, which makes absolutely no sense because it is literally lavender. The Ash Rose, which is this one, and then this Royal Blue, which is this one. Like this whole palette here is just like the perfect Bologna palette, honestly. This is Sanguine, this is Champagne, that's this one, and then this one is Light Sienna, which is like a really light apricot color. And then we have Distant Green, Moss Green, one of the nicest greens out of the new greens, I would say, along with this one, which is called Fresh Green. Look how beautiful those look, like next to the blues. We have Fir Green. One day I should like try to focus on doing just pencil drawings as well, but like I'm always so taken with watercolor that I never end up doing anything purely with colored pencils. That was Forest, and then Chocolate, which is always useful to have, and Midnight, really dark blue, and then a white, Chinese white, which, yeah, obviously I'm not going to see that. Okay, so that's that. And then the last selection of colors that I brought with me are a mixture of the Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua Dual markers and what are these? Tombos. So I have like a little selection here There's actually a set called the Tuscany set in the, what does it have in it? I think it's got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. It might have the burnt sienna as well. Anyways, it's like a set like this that's called the Tuscany set, and it's a really great set if you don't want to get like a lot of different kinds. That one is a really nice set to have. But then I added in this like brilliant red, which is like a coral red color, and this very light pink called pale pink. And then I also brought in the Indanthrone blue and May green yellowish. And then from Tombows, I have like a cool gray, good for shadows, dark olive, asparagus, and periwinkle. So let's just quickly swatch. I was drawing over top of something else with this earlier, so that's why it's got some blue on the edge. So that's like actually the etcher paper. This is just the back side of the sketchbook. That was pale pink. Then we have vintage pink. Then they have Venetian red. Obviously have to bring that if you're in Venice, which I didn't use, funnily enough. Light yellow ochre. This, like on its own, these colors are just so beautiful together. We have the brilliant red. Love that bright, bright, bright pop there. Then we have the Indanthrone blue. This is a sky blue pastel. May green yellowish. Pine green. A really nice bluish dark green. And then for the Tombows, cool gray, which is a nice like bluish gray. Periwinkle. Always got to have like a purpley lavender color when you're in Italy, I feel like. And then what's this? Asparagus. A really like bluey green. And dark olive. And let's just do a quick activate on those. Let's see if that, they don't really, the thing about these markers is that like once they're laid down, they don't activate a ton. They're better on the watercolor paper for sure. But like these are more, I would say, for drawing than they are for painting. I used these on one of my Vespa paint shots, and also one of my streetscape shots for my sketchbook. But yeah, they're not like, these aren't activating after you've laid them down, really. Some of the pigments might be a little better than others, but these are really more for drawing and then like layering on top of each other or layering on top of watercolor than they are for actually painting with, I would say. Yeah, so that was my palette, all of that together, and it all fits. Obviously you guys have probably seen this if you watch my Plein-Air videos, but everything basically fits into this single art case, and I'll like put things in and take things out for each day. Sometimes I put like less stuff in here, like a couple of days I just brought a couple of markers like that, maybe a couple of crayons or colored pencils, my my palette, and like a couple of clips and whatever, and that was all I brought with me. But it's great that like when I'm traveling I can fit everything in here, and I don't have to worry about like packing anything separately because like everything fits inside really nicely. I can put clips in there, my water brush, pen, everything zips up nice and easy. yeah, so that's basically my little kit. So yeah, that's everything that I painted, drew, bought, and whatever in Italy. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions about anything that I have shown today, leave it in the comments. Have you ever been to the Emilia-Romagna region? I would love to know what your favorite places are there, or if you have been anywhere else in Italy that you would recommend for sketching and painting. Let me know, because I'm always on the search for new places to go. Okay, have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.